used Teslas cheap? I mean, after all, with poor paint quality issues, panel fitment, technology failures, and bolts that were loose from the factory, is a used Tesla just so cheap? Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. So right here behind me, we have a Tesla Model Y, and this is the current lower cost entry-level SUV. They also have a Model X, which is the larger upscale and of course has the Falcon doors. Also have the Model S Plaid, which is the rocket ship car, four-door sedan, full scale, full size. Then we also have the Model 3, which is more or less based on this. Smaller, more entry-level, starts around 60K Canadian, and it's certainly closer to $50,000 US. Many different cars to choose from, and they're clearly the pioneers of electrification. So there's many reasons why a used Tesla could represent a great deal for a used buyer, but there's also many reasons why a used Tesla could represent a very, very poor buy for the wrong buyer. So let's talk about some of the ups and downs with owning a Tesla, and I'll let you know whether these represent a cheap buy, and then we'll follow it up with a quick assessment at the very end. So clearly, as the Model Y, it's a great car. This is some of the more recent variations. Obviously, a lot of their software and programming is more up to date. Why people love these cars is because Tesla seriously is the pioneer of electrified vehicles. Of course, they always have these great headlights. It's very unique for Tesla, and Tesla has a very sci-fi look. I mean, look at these wheels. They look very science fiction and futuristic. The headlights do too. Now, while they're LEDs, they have a sort of a unique look that's cleaner than almost any other brand out there. Just compare them to a car like that where it's very busy. The Tesla doesn't do it, that little yellow light in it, you can't even see it. It's just a very clean looking assembly. The whole front end looks clean because there's no grille, because it's an electric vehicle. So you don't need all that grille space like you see on a conventional vehicle. That just makes it a very, very clean design. And a lot of people love it for that. Very clean. Teslas. It truly is a love or hate type of vehicle. And generally the more progressive crowd loves the Tesla. But the haters are definitely those that prefer the internal combustion engine because this represents everything that is evil. That's another topic, but let's take a look around why people love these cars. Other than from a performance standpoint, even though this thing looks relatively conservative, this has the kind of performance that can blow the doors off of a car like this. We have a Porsche Cayman GTS 4-liter hot rod. It's truly a performance car by all measures, and yet, right here, this car can lay it a whooping. Now, who would ever think a vehicle that looks and represents a minivan or an SUV can actually beat on a modern-day high-performance race pedigree type company like a Porsche? So that's clearly one of the elements why people love Teslas. The Tesla Model S Plaid, in case you're not aware, actually puts down equivalent horsepower to, they're saying, over 1,000 ponies. And there's been numerous races on the internet that show that that thing whoops butt over many sport bikes out there. It can kick the pants off of most supercars, and truly for a car that just looks like every other vehicle on the road, it is actually very, very impressive. And you can plug it in and not worry about burning out an engine or blowing a head gasket. So Teslas definitely bring the performance to the game. And here we have dual motor, as shown right there, Tesla, and you'll notice you've got that very slick looking rear tail that flips up. You've got their own unique little style accents like that. Rear taillights, LEDs. And you've got these wonderful pop-out handles. Very clean, flush, and shave-looking handles. And look right there, you've got these other little bits and pieces that you can put these vehicles essentially in special mode that can actually be monitoring me. Right there, he's probably watching me right now. And you can do that because I know there was a couple years ago, there's a person I knew that actually had a Tesla, walked away, came back, found his car was keyed, and then, oh no, what was that? But he had that special mode on. And then he went and reviewed it, and he was able to record some dirtbag that walked up and decided to run his key down the side of his vehicle. He knew exactly who did it. The guy's license plate was backed into the parking lot, so he saw exactly who it was, reported it to police, and lo and behold, he got his car fixed free of charge. So there's a lot of great technology buried under the skin of this vehicle. But look at these great glass elements right here. Very clean looking glass. How about on the roof? That is literally a beautiful one piece all the way along. And if you're dealing with a Model X, that piece actually blends right in with the windshield. Windshield becomes one piece with the roof, which looks great, but the flip side is, of course, if you damage the roof or the windshield, it all becomes one piece that gets very, very expensive to replace. I mean, definitely it's the overall style is a big aspect. The fact that you can plug it in, it doesn't cost you any gas. Servicing is kept to a minimum. I mean, there's no internal combustion engine, so you don't have to worry about oil changes or that type of servicing, no coolant. Yes, after 10 to 12 years, you may have to change a set of batteries. And then, of course, that's where things can get expensive. 10, 12, 15, maybe $20,000 for a set of batteries. But the interior is quite interesting on these as well. Now, it's a very plain looking interior in most cases, although it's super clean and futuristic feeling with that white leather interior, complemented with a little bit of brushed aluminum in there and some black accents throughout. They also have that jumbo screen in the center, which virtually every control in the vehicle is actuated by. So clearly for people that maybe were considering BMWs or Benzes, vehicles that are notoriously known for coolant leaks or oil leaks, these don't have that to worry about. You just basically plug it in, charge it, and away you go. Yeah, you get your 200, 300, 400 kilometers out of a run, then you charge it in again. Now, range has always been a factor, and that's always been a consideration, and that's why electric vehicles are still limited in their very popularity. But there's definitely a unique crowd that loves these vehicles for everything in their simplicity of use and overall lack of maintenance. Just a thing to love with that regard. No smelly exhaust, it's quiet, it zips along. For a general commuter, it's a great vehicle. So are they a very cheap vehicle to own in the long run? Say, for example, BMW charges you $150 for an oil change. You do one a year in 10 years, that's $1,500. Coolant flushes, throw another $1,000 on there. You're into that $2,500, $3,000 in standard maintenance, which is still a lot cheaper than a set of batteries in 10 years. So it's not there that you're actually saving the money. And while you can plug these in and you don't have to fill them up at the pump, right now we know gas prices are up in Canadian dollars up to close to $2 per liter, which is obscene. But clearly that's not even nearly scratching the surface by plugging this in. The reality, with some time, you wait and see when more vehicles are converted, more owners are converted to electrified vehicles, you're going to start to see electric prices go up. So plugging in will cost you more money, although that's still cheaper than pulling pump gas. So there's a lot of reasons to love these, from relatively low day-to-day operating costs to limited maintenance other than the set of batteries after the first 10-year mark. Now, unfortunately, there's some details that hurt the brand and certainly would push down on the depreciation a little bit and hamper its resale value. But how bad are they really? Well, I'll give you a few examples. Paint problems have been very, very common, where you get different bubble and peel. Of course, you get a lot of times fitment issues with body panels that don't quite line up right. Tight on one side, looser on the other. Sometimes the electrics aren't the most functional. And even, this is a Tesla Model Y, but in the X with the Falcon doors, those Falcon doors have been known to be problematic. Electrics, as this whole car is essentially controlled by microprocessors. QC problems with bolts and fittings not appropriately fastened from the factory as brand new. Some of the 3 and Y cars are known for water ingress in the trunks, and some of the seals don't necessarily hold up against water. And of course, the big display in the center screen has been known to be problematic, as updates are always a requirement. Now we have to put all this in perspective, because at the end of the day, every vehicle seems to have some kind of issue. Think of BMW with coolant and oil leaks, potential turbo problems. And you get cars like Alphas, for example, with lots of electrical issues. So while the quality control isn't quite nailed down yet, it is very, very promising. And the question has to be asked, is it enough to really, really hurt depreciation? So then one would think that it's pointless to buy these once they get up to that 6, 7, 8 years of age. That's when you're going to be faced with some big costs. So you would think that these vehicles would be super cheap on the used car market once you get up to about that 2015 or 2016 model years, right? Wrong. The reality is most Teslas now, if you look on the Auto Trader, for example, looking in Canadian bucks, brand new Tesla Model X cost about $143,000 Canadian MSRP. But the reality is I found numerous. I scoured Canadian sites, and of course the same applies on the US side of the border. You'll find more or less the same percentage applies. A vehicle of 2016, it's already 6 years old, and clearly, you know, the batteries will be needing doing probably in another 4 or 5 years. But the reality is sellers are still asking in that $90,000 to $100,000 for a vehicle that was only $140,000 when it was brand new. That's still sitting around that 65% retention value after 6 years. Clearly buyers getting into this know what they're getting into and aren't too afraid of that. As a matter of fact, I've seen cars with as much as 110, 120,000 kilometers or 60 or 70,000 miles with a $90,000 price tag associated on a used car market. So why is that actually a thing? Well, I think the high value retention on these vehicles is there for the simple fact that initially, when these vehicles came out, the belief was electrification would never stick. It would never stick around. You'd never see too many of these on the road. But the reality is, almost every single car manufacturer is now creating some form of electrified vehicle. Even Porsche is creating the Porsche Taycan. So every brand is following suit. And as a result, people are feeling like, hey, why not just get on with the pioneer of electrification, and that would be Tesla. Because in fact, they still look more unique than any other electrified vehicle out there on the market today. They truly were the pioneers of the industry and generate some of the fastest, most unique vehicles on the road today. So if you're looking for best value and bang for your buck, you won't find it in a used Tesla, no. But are used Teslas expensive? Yes, they are. They're not cheap, just because they definitely have a following, plus a unique appeal and performance that is difficult to find in virtually any other car. And with all of that said, if you've been shopping around, right there, why are used BMWs so cheap? And right there, why are used Jaguars so cheap? Just in case you care, maybe you're shopping around. Hope to see you real soon. Catch you on the flip side. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.